that NBA championship run. The guys that they got on their team, they're playoff ready. They've been in every situation possible. So when it comes to the moment, nothing's too big for them. So a guy like Westbrook and LeBron, like people are saying, those guys are too old. They might not be able to mesh. Those are killers, bro. They gonna figure it out. And if they get put in the right situation come playoff time, teams is gonna be scared to play them boys for real.
I want to ask you.
So how do you think the Lakers should approach this, and how much work does LeBron or Anthony Davis have to do calling guys saying, I know it's going to be less money, but will you come play with us?
Well, I mean, free agency is all about working the phones. I think the presidents and GMs have their say-so, but, you definitely want to have a say-so if you're a player yourself. And I think that's a lot. It's very powerful if you get a call from somebody wanting to play with you, especially when you're going to have to take less money. But in the Lakers instance, they're the Lakers. They're always chasing championships, and anytime you're in the business of championships, this is the flexibility or the maneuvering or the finesse that you have to have. They're going to have to surround all of the talent that they have right now with Mark, with their big three, and make sure they get shooting around them. I think we all know that LeBron, he has his style that he likes to have shooters around him. We all know what Anthony Davis brings. He's going to bring the muscle in the paint that they need. But Russell Westbrook is also going to be a force in the paint. He's going to play his game and play full court. They're going to have to surround those guys with shooters and, hopefully get some bargain prices of them. And I know there's plenty of guys out there who will join the Lakers, and we'll see what happens today.
Well, look, I'm glad CB brought up shooting because I'm tired of everybody overemphasizing spacing and shooting, because we just saw in this year's finals the way that Giannis dominated. The Milwaukee Bucks did not shoot well from the three-point line at all. But as long as you have superstar power, you could get the job done, right? In the finals, it's all about your superstars rising to the occasion. We saw Caldwell Pope. We saw Danny Green. We saw those guys struggle when the Lakers made their first run. Now, I get it. If you could go out and get a J.J. Redick on a vet minimum, then you got to go do that. If you can go out and get a Carmelo Anthony on a vet minimum, then you also got to go do that. I just feel like when it comes down to LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, and Anthony Davis, this has been a plan that they have been thinking about for a very long time. We know all of these guys are close friends. We know that LeBron James is getting to a point of his time in his career where he's going to be willing to make the necessary sacrifices, meaning maybe having to play the power forward position. Anthony Davis having to make the sacrifice of playing the center position and playing and letting Russell Westbrook lead the charge. We know that Russell Westbrook could also be the facilitator on the team. Last year, he led the league in assists. He wants to get others involved. So I think when you have this much star power and you have a guy like Anthony Davis that could control the paint on both ends of the floor, then yeah, you can fill in the gaps a little bit. But with those three players, I like my chances.
Well, it is interesting, the gaps they do have to fill in. Dave, Perk just mentioned J.J. Redick. Who do you think they are targeting?
Wow. Well, they're targeting a lot because they need to. There's 11 open roster spots as they head into free agency. It could be less if they retain some of their own guys. Alex Caruso, Taylor Horton Tucker, they've already tendered a qualifying offer for THT that would lend us to believe that they're going to match whatever comes on the outside as a restricted free agent. But then you have the mid-level exception, which isn't all that much money because they're a taxpayer, only $5.9 million. So you'll be asking some of these people that could get more money on the outside market to come, and the veteran minimum. And so they, Perk, you're great, but three-point shooting is a huge part of today's game. They were 21st in the league in threes last year, and Perk mentioned J.J. Redick. That's a name. Wayne Ellington, a former Laker. There's another name. Trevor Ariza, Avery Bradley. And some of these guys, the good part about it, they can shoot the three, but they're not a one-dimensional player. They can provide the defensive intensity or certainly the veteran acumen that you bring to the group. But they got a lot of spots to fill, and it's going to be really interesting to see, do they target one player with this mid-level, or do they split it up and just say we can offer you a little bit more than the veteran minimum?
Well, it's certainly become more complicated just in terms of getting the right skill sets on the floor with Russ coming there. Obviously, the big stars felt like that was the move because we know they all got together. But Ramona, this is not the first time Russell Westbrook has tried to come to LA, right? You had such an interesting detail this morning. Can you share that with our friends here?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's interesting that this Russ move we've all talked about. I feel like I've been on this show several times and
Yes.
we've talked about it. But in the summer of 2019, when we were all talking about Kawhi coming to the Lakers,
Right.
the Clippers are going back to the
Would he bring someone with him?
Yeah, would he go there alone? One of the guys who took matters into his own hands was Russell Westbrook. Called up Kawhi and said, "Hey, I'm from LA, you're from LA. Is there a way we can make this work?" Kawhi wasn't all that interested in that.
That's
And
amazing.
Kawhi ends up calling Paul Jordan saying, "Hey, I'd rather go with you, but you should just know that I had a conversation with your guy. So if you don't want
So
to be
Kawhi basically said to Paul George, who was teammates with Russell Westbrook, and we remember the whole press conference and the concert and the whole thing. It's going to be the two of them. Kawhi called PG and said, "Hey, I don't know if you know this. Russ is looking to leave. Maybe you should leave and come with me instead."
Here's what's like, it's not so much that Russ was looking to leave. Russ was just, "Hey, what do you think? We're from LA. Could this work?" It was just one of those thought bubble conversations. The same kind of thought bubble conversation Russ has been having with LeBron James for the past couple of weeks. The conversations he's had with Bradley Beal over the last couple of weeks. "Hey, what are you doing? I want to make sure we're aligned. Let's do the same thing." Like, this was just a conversation. It wasn't like, "Hey, let's act on this."
Well,
but
Kawhi acted.
Look, Kaiser Sose over there, okay?
Right.
Like,
Well,
Kawhi is a mastermind, and it was. I'd heard about this for a little while. I finally was able to confirm it up, but it does speak to the amount that Westbrook has been trying to get back to Los Angeles for a couple of years here. And I think what really sealed this for the Lakers, they had the trade for Buddy Hield. They woke up that morning thinking they were doing the trade for Buddy Hield. But when Russ saw those reports of how serious the Buddy Hield trade was, he's been talking to LeBron the whole time. He kind of knew, hey, it didn't work out the last time, but if I'm ever going to get back to my hometown, this is the time. So Russ and his agent, Thad Fouché, who, by the way, 3 trades in 3 years, and everywhere you leave, they send a press release saying, thank you for your efforts.
Right. Yeah.
It seems pretty well handled. Went to Tommy Shepard and said, "Look, we're happy to play here. We like it here in Washington, but if there's a way to get back to Los Angeles, if there's a trade with Los Angeles, today would be the
entertainment, current events, and everything in between. Today is extra special for me. When I named this show Renaissance Man, I was just following the blueprint of my next guest. Our next guest is a legend in sports, business, philanthropy, and American pop culture. He entered the NBA in 1979, spent his entire career with the Los Angeles Lakers, where he not only showed the world what Showtime truly means, but how to treat others with respect and compassion. Magic Johnson is the best point guard, has the greatest smile, is the greatest human being to ever be affiliated with the NBA. Please welcome to the Renaissance Man podcast, my idol, Earvin Magic Johnson.
What's up, Jalen?
It really means a lot for you to be on with me. So, as you know, probably besides someone with the last name of Johnson or even Cookie, I know everything about you. Okay, so please be patient with me when I ask questions that I know the answer.
All
okay?
right.
Okay, cool. Because we got a younger audience that are huge fans of yours. So at what point of your life did you know that you wanted to play basketball professionally?
Well, Jalen, I think early on, when I used to watch the games on Saturday, college basketball on Saturday with my dad, and then the NBA on Sundays. And so, we're sitting there just watching the game. He's teaching me everything that's going on. And so I would say, 8, 9, 10 years old, I knew I wanted to play basketball. I knew I wanted to play in the NBA. And then when you watch, Oscar and you watch Kareem because he was with Milwaukee. You watch all these guys play because back then you get the regional games.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to be like them. I wanted to play in the NBA just like them. And so thank God that my dreams came true. I put a lot of work in to get there. But I would say that it was early on sitting there with my father watching those games.
I'm glad you mentioned Oscar because Russell Westbrook just broke his triple-double record in the NBA. And as a fan of the league and a fan of yours, I always thought if somebody was going to break that record, it was definitely going to be you. I really did. So when you see Russell do that and you think of the all-time great point guards, and for me it's it's yourself, Isaiah, and Oscar, whatever way you want to take it. Who are your top point guards of all time? And what do you think about Russell Westbrook eclipsing that record?
Well, first of all, you and I know how difficult, Jalen, it is just to get a triple double.
Yes, for real. For real. I had one. I played 13 years. I just knew I was going to average a triple double.
Exactly. because you and I did it so often in high school and in college. So it's difficult to do it in the NBA. So for him to break a record that I thought would never be broken, right? Never. That shows you how great Russell is. And also to average a triple-double for 4 straight years per season, man, he's definitely one of my all-time favorites, but he's also one of the all-time greatest point guards. It's just where will you put him, right? And so when you think about the two you named, I'll always mention those two, Isaiah and Oscar, because of their greatness. And also, I'm so happy that Oscar also always helped young guys like myself, help Russell, so he paved the way in so many different ways, not just on the court, but off the court as well. Civil rights movement, all those type of things. And if it wasn't for Oscar and Muhammad Ali, Kareem, all those guys, we probably wouldn't have all made the money that we made, in the league. And then also having the exposure and then being in households all over the world. And so I want to just say, Russell, that's an amazing feat. I don't know if anybody else will come along because this brother is so active.
Yes.
The energy that he plays with and the activity, I don't see anybody else coming along and being able to be that athletic, that strong, and play that hard. All those things combined, right?
Right.
And so my hat's off to Russell, and I want to congratulate him for breaking the record. And he's still young, so this thing is gonna keep going.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. And I'm glad you mentioned Oscar because he helped author in Free Agency and Muhammad Ali. And we talk about the Ali Summit and that iconic picture with Cap, Bill Russell, and Jim Brown.
Yep.
But you also, with your magnetic smile and your style of play, helped catapult the NBA and mainstream America into believing that people that look like us could not only be great athletes, but also pitchmen and well-spoken and entrepreneurs. So what gave you the discipline and who gave you the opportunity to start on that path while you were a player?
Well, I think, first off, Jalen, I think I looked at guys like Dr. J, and so Dr. J, was one of my idols. I wanted to be like him. He was charismatic. He had the Dr. J's. Everybody as a kid wanted the docs, and so I was one of those kids, and so when I saw him flying through the air, and then when I saw the Iceman poster and him sitting on 2 blocks of ice, in the gray sweatsuit, I said, oh man, I want that. I want to be one of those guys, right? And so I have to say that I was trying to copy those 2 guys. I wanted to be one of those guys who had that. You and I are fortunate, Jalen, because of this. We were change agents. There would never be a basketball team in college basketball that did what the University of Michigan did and Jalen Rose did, right? And so you changed college basketball, the longer shorts, the black socks, You made it more fashionable while you were still dominating and while you were still winning the game. Well, before, everybody just cared about winning or playing the game. You guys said, no, we're going to take it a step further. We're going to add fashion to it. And so I tried to do the same thing. I wanted to smile. I wanted to be a change agent in the NBA. And thank God that Larry Bird and I came at the right time. We were able to change the game, show a big man can handle the ball, make plays, make their teammates better. And we were able to change the league at the same time. And him being on the Boston Celtics, myself on the Lakers, East-West, the whole thing just worked and exploded, and the league exploded because of that.
I'm so very fortunate as somebody that was born in the 70s and raised in the 80s, and fell in love with basketball, because as a Detroiter, we drafted Isaiah Thomas, and that was my favorite hometown team. Magic Johnson is from Lansing, Everett. He's from Michigan. Y'all got a chance to enjoy him in Los Angeles, but he's from my hometown, everybody. And so Larry Bird was my coach in the NBA.
Wow.
You three guys, along with Michael Jordan, basically embodied that era of not only winning championships, but killer instinct. So can you just talk about basketball in the 80s, as you mentioned, Dr. J, and your rivalry with Larry and Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas?
Well, I think that's what made the game so special, is because Dr. J was leading Philadelphia, right? You had Larry Bird leading Boston. So that was a rivalry between the two. And then at the same time, here come Isaiah and the Bad Boy Pistons, which was probably the best defensive team we've ever seen, right? And then you had Michael Jordan, who was just coming in, right? And so the league was exploding at that time. And I didn't mention Portland with Clyde Drexler and all those guys. And then Dallas had a great team as well. Houston, Akeem and them were just coming in, but they came in much later. So the league was healthy. It had built-in rivalries. And so when you look at Philadelphia and Boston playing for those Eastern Conference Finals, man, that was awesome TV. And then, so Dr. J and them went down, and then here come the Bad Boy Pistons. And we hadn't seen a team like that when you have Joe Dumars at the shooting guard, and then you have Rodman and Sally coming in off the bench. Man, those you had to be careful when you drove to the basket, Jay. If you didn't look around, you get your head taken off by one of them guys, right? Mahorn, Lambeer, somebody gonna take your head off, and they made you earn your 2 points, right, at the free throw line. But at the same time, they played so well together and they were well coached. So I would say this: look what happened, right? The Celtics won 3 with Larry. I won the 5. Isaiah and them went back-to-back, championships. And then they taught Michael and the Bulls how to win the championship. See, everybody got taught. And see, that's what young people don't understand. You just don't walk up and do it. Right? You have to work. You have to put work in to be able to accomplish a championship and to be great at something.
You continue to hone your craft, not only as an entrepreneur but also as a player. And when we see your greatness, sometimes even as a player, people underestimate the turbulence that you went through when you failed. And I remember a couple of times in Boston when the shot clock ran out and you lost track of time. And that off season, you worked on your jumper and you worked on the junior sky hook. You worked on that shot. And can you talk about responding to that adversity on the floor and how it helped you not only as a basketball player, but it continues to drive you and your character today?
Yeah, Jalen, first of all, when we lost in the 1984 finals to the Celtics after winning game 1 in Boston, and we had the lead to win game 2, and Gerald Henderson steals the ball at the end and ties the game up. And the play you're talking about, I've always excelled in every championship series. And then this was the first time I made critical mistakes for us to lose that championship. So I cried, Jalen, for 3 months, all summer. I cried because I let my teammates down. I was the reason why we lost the championship. But the first thing I had to do, Jalen, was identify and say to myself, I'm not as good as I thought I was. I got to go back to the lab. I got to go back to work. See, self-evaluation is the hardest thing you had to do. Any person had to judge themselves and be honest with themselves.
Correct.
And if you can do that, then you can improve. So basically, I was doing a SWOT of myself. What is that? Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? And so when I did the SWOT, Jalen, I said, I got to go to work. I got to get my jump shot better. I had to work on that. I got to make sure that I don't make critical mistakes ever again. And so I improved over that summer. I started shooting a little sky hook. I worked on it every single day. Man, I was working out 3 times a day. Early in the morning, come back, get a little nap in the afternoon, then work out. Isaiah and I was working out at night at 12 midnight, man.
Wow.
Hey, we were putting it in. And so God would have it that I would turn around in 1985, play the Celtics again, and we end up beating them because I got better and I didn't make critical mistakes. And so let me tell everybody out there, you're going to make mistakes. Is what you do when you make those mistakes is going to define who you can become and who you are. Yes, I made mistakes, but I got better. And I identified to myself that, hey, Urban, you got to get better. And it's okay. So I would say to everybody out there, get you some mentors, get you somebody who can tell you the truth, right? That will tell you right from wrong. Not somebody that's always going to say yes to you. Somebody that's going to say no to you, sometimes. Right. And so that's what I did, Jalen. I just got better.
I appreciate that SWOT, and our audience is going to adopt that, because I always say, like, when you look in the mirror, do you see yourself or your representative? That's the is that your agent in the mirror, or is that really you? Yeah. And you're a refreshing case for somebody, not only again as an iconic athlete, you have 11 rings. Don't you got 11 rings? How many rings you got, Magic?
I got 10. Well, I got 5 as a player, 5 as an owner, and now 1 with the Lakers as an executive. That's 11. Then I got 1 as the Sparks owner. That's 12. And I got now 1 with the Dodgers. That's 13 rings.
So you're clearly a magnet of success. You're clearly a magnet. So what do you do if you're trying to build an organization, or like put together a team, or be the captain and leader of the team? Like, what are some of those attributes you impart that have made you so successful?
Well, first of all, I put a team around me to help me achieve my goals, right? When I first came out of basketball, I didn't know business, so I got me some mentors. That's number one. I got mentors who, again, helped me and developed me into a businessman. And then I read a lot of books, Jalen. I'm a reader. I like to read books. I like to, I idolize guys, Steve Jobs, all these guys who are very successful. What made them successful? What makes them tick? So I follow those guys, right? And so then on the other side of that too, as well, I made sure that I told Dr. Buzz, you as the owner of the Lakers, you have to be my first mentor. Teach me business. And sure enough, he explained business to me, Jalen. That's really how I got started. And so I owe him a lot for helping me while I was still a player, And then I put a team around myself. Michael Ovitz, who is the most powerful agent probably ever in the history of agency, who started and built CAA. He said to me, do you think you're the best basketball player? I said, yes. Then you got to get the best people around you, the best managers, the best agents, the best accountants, those who don't need you, don't need your money,
right.
But will be honest with you and can help you advance. in your business career. That was really what got me started in business, Jalen. And I tell you, I am so happy because what I tried to do was prove the myth wrong that athletes can become businessmen, right?
Correct.
They said before that, they were talking about, oh, we can only play on the field or on the court. You know, no way they can run a business or that. Look at you and I. You
Correct.
own your own company. I own my own company.
Correct.
So we are already, so many people, Jalen, are proud of us. We are role models to so many people, not just in sports, but outside of that, because of what you have achieved, the shows that you own, and the thing, this right here, what you're doing right now, because now that shows other minorities, not just Black young men, but also Latino young men,
Yes.
and on, that they can do it. I showed other that they can do it, people of color. So that's very, very important. So I'm just blessed, man. I got a team. I got people who are smarter than me, who are hard workers like me, because I'm a hard worker. And I only want workers. I don't want people who clock watchers, who watching the clock. I want people who understand this word. And this is the word I live by, how to over-deliver. So you have over-delivered to ESPN. You have over-delivered with your podcast, and on it, you have over-delivered with your school in Detroit. So all the things that you do, see, Jalen got his fingerprints on it, right? You're involved. You're really involved. You're not a figurehead. It's just like me. I'm not a figurehead. I run my company. I'm signing the checks, not an agent, not a manager. I know what happens. So that's very important. I set the vision here. We got to execute on that vision. I got a team to do that. And that's how I've done it, man.
And also, athletes and entertainers and those that look like us owe you a debt of gratitude, because if you ever hear any of them speak, it could be from Michael Jordan to LeBron James, they're all going to thank you for breaking down those barriers for us, because you broke down a lot of barriers. First off, you came in young, winning championships. That just broke down every barrier. You just killed the expectation of what it's supposed to be like for a young player in the league. You came right out of college and won a championship, came straight in the league and won a championship. And then also as an entrepreneur, but then lastly, you challenged me to do this and anybody to do this that got into the league, to give back to the community.
Yep.
You was on us about that. I came and played at Magic Midnight Summer Classic multiple times, and it was not just about the game. So can you talk about how important it has been for you to always give back to the community?
It's so important because you and I and others, and so many others, been blessed. And the community helped us, Jalen. They put us in these seats that we're in right now today. Somebody helped us, St. Cecilia, we can tell a lot of stories about Detroit. And George Gervin helped me. If it wasn't for Gervin taking me aside and, young fella, you need to do it like this and do it like that. Terry Furlow taking me aside, telling me what to do, on and on and on. There was so many people who helped me achieve my goals and dreams. So my job was to go back and do the same thing for others. And it doesn't have to be in sports. Matter of fact, I probably help more people outside of sports than I have in sports. And so I just want to bless them. Hey, you want to go to college? So my wife and I, through the Magic Johnson Foundation, we've sent over 10,000 minority students to college.
Wow,
because that's what it's about, right? And we built 20 technology centers, one in Harlem, one in